good to have visitors and guests. I think I saw, she's not here, we saw Olivia Neslution, who's came back after being away for 2 months in Peru. We welcome her back and all of our guests. Before we have our morning offering, I want to say just 2 more words about the relics of the church. Life is a mystery. We can't explain many things in life, right? And that's one thing we always have to remember. Life is a mystery to be lived. It's not a problem to be solved. We can't figure out life. We can just live that mystery. And there's many things in life. That's what faith is all about. God is a God who created the universe, who set laws of the universe, but then God can go outside those laws whenever he wants. And that's what miracles are. So in our tradition, one of the things we have seen throughout the history of the church are miracles. And miracles work in different ways. In the Bible, we hear Jesus doing all types of healing, doing all types of miracles, even raising the dead, right? The followers of Jesus, the apostles, did miracles. In the book of Acts, we hear about how St. Peter had used a handkerchief and then put it down, and someone took the handkerchief and put it upon a person who was sick, and they were raised from their sickness. This handkerchief somehow had the grace of God. The Bible talks about St. Paul walking down the streets, and his shadow, if his shadow would pass by someone who was sick, would heal them. These are unbelievable miracles that happen. So one of the ways God has performed miracles is through the relics of saints. Now, I don't know if all of you know this, but the first century Christians, you know where they used to worship? After the first Christians started to be martyred in Rome, the Christians would go down to the catacombs on top of the tombstones, and that would be the altar table. And they would worship there, being close to the saints. That's what brought about the tradition of putting the relics of the saints in the middle of the altar. You have in our tradition saints who, after they died, their bodies would be dug up to get their bones. And sometimes you would dig up, and you would find the body still intact. I don't know how many of you have ever been to Corfu, but on Corfu, the island of Kerkina, they have the whole body of Saint Spiridon. He lived 1,400 years ago, and his whole body is still there. There's also the body of Saint Theodora. Saint Theodora was the empress in the 7th century. Her entire body is still there. And miracles have happened through this body. Now, they're not the only two, there's many. Many entire bodies, the skin is still there, even after 1,000 years. You have then the bones. The Christians would take the bones, wash them carefully, and if these people were considered saintly, they would keep these bones and they would keep them in the church. And then sometimes miracles would happen through those bones. And that's where we have this tradition now of having a relic of St. Nicholas with us. Will it perform a miracle? God knows. I don't know. That's part of the mystery of life. I took his relic last night, to visit Bishop Athanasius, this dear African bishop who was in our church 2 months ago and who is dying. He has days to live. The doctor said there's no hope for him. And so our only hope is praying and hoping that a miracle will happen. Will that miracle happen? Maybe. Will it not happen? Maybe. That's a part of the mystery of life. We don't know. But I just want to introduce, because I know many people aren't familiar with the idea of relics and how God uses material things. Just like he uses bread and wine, and every week he changes the bread and wine into the body and the blood of Jesus Christ, which we then consume and are united to God through this greatest of mysteries, Holy Communion. And in other ways, holy water. Take normal water, bless it, and it brings a blessing. Or holy oil, the same thing. So this is a part of our tradition, taking material blessings, material things, and sometimes God's grace comes upon them and blesses us through that. So I just want us to be aware of that. And remember, life is a mystery. We don't always understand why. We're not going to comprehend. Our finite human mind can never comprehend God's infinite mind. That's a part of the mystery of life. One final word I'll say about relics, showing the respect that our church has always had for the physical. This is one of the reasons why our church has never condoned cremation. And I'm bringing this up because I realize our church is facing a crisis now with its people, because I think statistics show in America around almost 40% of Americans today, when they die, they're cremated. But all of us in the church, I want you to understand, we don't do cremation. And if you are cremated, we're not allowed to do a final funeral farewell prayer, because you're choosing to destroy your body. Do you know what cremation is? Taking your body after you're dead, putting it in an oven that goes to thousands of degrees, and then your whole body's burned, and then they take the bones, which aren't burned, and they put bones in a pulverizer and pulverize them down to dust. That's what happens in cremation, when you get the ashes. That's a violent end to a body. The Christian way is, when we die, we say, from the earth we came, to the earth we return. We take the body, we put it in the ground, and let nature take its course. So please remember that, because I know some of you, or maybe some of your friends and relatives in the church, think about cremation. If we cremated, cremation was always a part of the pagan religions and the Far Eastern religions. If we did cremation, we would never have the blessing of relics today. So please remember that and pass it on to others who are in the church, so that they understand why and how. Don't follow the ways of the world in America today to say, oh, cremation. If finances is a reason why you want to be cremated, which I can understand, come and see me and the church will help with your funeral, if finances are the reason. But if it's for other reasons, think about why you would do cremation, and try to understand how the church always respects the body, even after we die. Okay.